And when you look at their media using Hamas talking points, whether it's about deaths in Gaza or who bombed what in Gaza, it is sickening. The media have learned nothing from the 1930s and 1940s. And let me tell you something. This feels to me like the 1930s all over again. Now, I want to take a look at this. A message to those who claim to care about innocent Palestinian lives. Cut one, go.
This is a message for those to claim to care about protecting innocent Palestinian lives. Yes, I'm speaking to you, Angelina Jolie, Rashida Tlaib, Cori Bush, and of course, Bella and Gigi Hadid. Where were you when more than 4,000 Palestinians in refugee camps were slaughtered in the Syrian civil war? Where was your outrage when Lebanon banned Palestinians from working as doctors, lawyers, or from owning land? Where were you when it was exposed that the Palestinian Authority tortures Palestinian prisoners? When Palestinian police murdered journalist Nizar Banat for opposing the government? Where were you when 850,000 Palestinians were displaced by the Syrian civil war? When Lebanese militias killed 2,500 Palestinians in refugee camps and displaced another 30,000 Palestinians from 1985 to 1987? Where is your outrage over Hamas dragging the bodies of innocent Palestinians through the streets of Gaza for collaborating with Israel? Where were you when Hamas stored rockets in Palestinian schools, when they recruited children to join the jihad, when they murdered one of the last Christian pastors in Gaza, when they stole electricity, water, fuel, and humanitarian aid for their own terror activities instead of supporting their people? Where is your protest against Arab states for refusing to accept a single Palestinian refugee, even temporarily? If you're only outraged by Israel's actions, you aren't pro-Palestinian and you don't care about Palestinian lives. You're blinded by your own hatred of Israel. The best way to protect Palestinian lives is the destruction of Hamas.
Beautifully said. And where are you? The American media. You also heard about Gaza, the IDF, Israel's military, telling the Gazans, go south, because they've cut the country in half, not the country, the territory in half, because Hamas is concentrated in the north. And I keep reading these stories. We now have 600,000 people who've been relocated. 500,000 Jews have been relocated out of northern Israel on the border with Lebanon in the last 3 weeks. How come you haven't read that? In any event, let's take a look. Tensions over Israel-Hamas war on the rise in the United States. Go.
Tonight, tensions over the Israel-Hamas war reaching a boiling point in the U.S. Hundreds of protesters gathering at the Port of Tacoma in Washington.
Doesn't this remind you of the riots of 2020? Doesn't it remind you of that? It's essentially the same people, you know, who are trying to overthrow the United States. There is, as I keep talking about, this overlay between Marxist ideology and Islamist ideology. Because both of them reject constitutional republicanism. Both of them claim to support the redistribution of wealth. Both of them claim all kinds of overlaying principles. And it's really quite amazing. It's the same people, the same schools, the same universities, the same professors, and the same American media. Go.
Blocking a military vessel they believe to be carrying U.S. military aid to Israel.
From the river to the sea, Palestine would be free. From the river to the sea, that would be the Jordan River, to the sea, the Mediterranean. Well, what's in between? Israel. So they're not talking about anything but the obliteration of the Jewish state and the obliteration of the Jews in the Jewish state. And so when we keep hearing about, you know, Hamas is different than the Palestinian people, well, in many cases it is, but in many cases it's not. Go ahead.
This same cargo ship also blocked just a few days ago in Oakland when demonstrators chained themselves to the ship's ladders.
We attempted to stop the ship from moving by calling on the workers and those on the ship.
The Arab Resource and Organizing Center. These are all funded by dark money operations. They all have these different names that they give themselves. The media can't wait to interview them. Go ahead.
to stand on the right side of history. When the ship started to move, the community took it upon themselves to actually occupy the ship.
Long live Palestine!
On Sunday, crowds of pro-Palestinian supporters marching through the nation's capital. Police say the demonstration was mostly peaceful. But at night, some protesters began banging on the White House gates and even climbing them. Handprints in red paint left behind this morning and nearby statues vandalized. The U.S. Secret Service says no arrests were made.
Why? No arrests were made. No arrests were made. What about January 6th? There were a few arrests made as a result of that. No arrests were made with the vandalism taking place, the effort to storm the White House. Unbelievable. No arrests were made. Go ahead.
In Philadelphia, this moment going viral. George Norcross, a well-known New Jersey businessman and Democratic Party organizer, ejected from an Eagles game after he displayed an American-Israeli flag from his suite.
Look, they're taking the flag.
The Philadelphia Eagles declined to comment on the situation, but the stadium's policy prohibits, quote, signs, banners, or similar items that are obscene or indecent, not event-related, potentially offensive to other patrons, or those that contain commercial messages, logos, or political...
We've now reached a point where having an American flag with an Israeli flag is controversial. Now keep something in mind. It's not controversial with regular Americans. It's controversial in the Democrat Party. This is a disease from a soulless Democrat Party because the Democrat Party hates America. I've said it over and over again. I've written an entire book on it. So now the Democrat Party, you cannot offend one of the communities that creates the base of the Democrat Party. And what's that? The pro-Hamas Nazi base of the Democrat Party. I did a calculation on the number of Democrats that voted against a resolution condemning Hamas. There were over 20. Over 10% of the House Democrats refused to condemn Hamas. That's how poisonous and vile this has become. And when you look at their media using Hamas talking points, whether it's about deaths in Gaza or who bombed what in Gaza, it is sickening. Sickening. The media have learned nothing from the 1930s and 1940s. And let me tell you something. This feels to me like the 1930s all over again. You read about it, you watch the black and white films, you have family members and others who witnessed it with their own two eyes, whether in the United States or over in Germany or Europe, elsewhere. This smells like the 1930s to me. Go ahead.
In a lengthy statement, Norcross questioning why his flag was not allowed and threatening to sue, writing in part, I've watched the Eagles NFL make clear and strong statements on numerous important civil justice issues and ethnic and world conflicts, including supporting the people of Ukraine. Meanwhile, violence breaking out on...
Stop. What about that? What about all the social justice issues that the NFL, including the Philadelphia Eagles, have promoted over the years? So you can't have a flag with the United States and Israel, and you're thrown out of what looks like a very expensive Eagles box at the stadium there? Go ahead.
College campuses. Police in California say they are investigating a possible hate crime after an Arab Muslim Stanford student was hit by a car on campus and sent to the hospital. The victim says the driver yelled, "F you and your people," as he sped off. The university calling the incident profoundly disturbing.
Please not guilty on behalf on these charges.
And across the country, a University of Massachusetts Amherst student who pled not guilty was arraigned today for allegedly assaulting another student at a rally in solidarity with the hostages being held by Hamas. The surge in violence and threats on college campuses, leaving students on both sides of the conflict on edge.
You see, this moral equivalency is sickening. It's sickening. The media look for these one-off cases. But when it comes to American Jews, there are no one-off cases. There are hundreds of universities and colleges. There are tens of thousands of students who are hostile to the Jewish students. We have video all over the place, what's been done to the Jewish students and what's being done to the Jewish students. for NBC to try and create a moral equivalency, and NBC's been one of the worst, by the way, as has MSNBC, is sickening. It's absolutely sickening. Go ahead.
I want people to know that the Jewish people are hurting. We're very strong. We've been through a lot, so we know how to deal with these issues. But that doesn't mean that we're not affected by it and that we're not upset.
I think disgusted is a better word. And again, I want to take the opportunity, as I have in the past. I get emails and texts from wonderful friends of mine, associates of mine, people I barely know, who are not Jewish, who say to me, we stand with Israel, we stand with democracy, we stand with you. Because these people would just as well blow up the United States as they would Israel. It's the same mentality. I'm just pointing that out because it's true.
For more, sign up for LevinTV.